Everyone, welcome to this evening's mayoral candidate and city council candidate information night. My name is Brian Ballinger and I am the superintendent for the Gustine Unified School District, and I will be your moderator this evening. Your mayoral candidates are Zachary Ramos, Pat Nagy, and your city council candidates are Lynn Schultz, Derek Alexander, and Rich Ford. Thank you, candidates, for agreeing to come out this evening. A special thank you to Gustine Rotary for sponsoring this evening's event. Thank you for doing that. The audience has been provided with cards and pencils so that they may ask questions of our candidates. You may ask a question of a specific candidate or the entire group. When you've written your question, please raise your hand and one of our runners will be by to pick up your card. A panel will be screening questions. This is to avoid duplicate questions and to address as many pertinent issues as possible. The panel may also screen out questions that are deemed not germane to tonight's discussion. We're going to go ahead and get started with candidate opening statements. Candidates have been asked to prepare up to a 5-minute opening statement. And please, if you can, tell us about yourself, why you're running for this particular office, and what are your goals or issues if you are elected. Pat Snow will be our timer this evening. She is sitting down right in front of you. You will get a card that'll tell you 1 minute remaining, and you will also get a card that says 30 seconds. If you happen to go over the allotted time, you will get one of these signals to end it. So let's go ahead and start. We will start at the end with Rich Ford.
I thought I was on the right end of the table, but they switched it on me again. I'm Rich Ford. I've lived in Gustine most of my life. Graduated from Gustine High School in 1979. Married my high school sweetheart, Lori. We've been married 39 years. We have a daughter, Mackenzie, and a son-in-law, Jared Martin. They're also Gustine High School graduates. And now we have a granddaughter and a grandson, a 6-year-old Brindley and 3-month-old Stetson. I run the farm supply store at the edge of town. In 1970, my dad started a tractor repair business here in Gustine. And in 1982, I started the farm supply store. And then after my dad passed away, we stopped doing the tractor repair, and I just run the farm supply store. We'll be 48 years in business in Gustine this year. Loved Gustine from the time I moved into this town. I think I was in the 8th grade, and I hadn't been here a couple of weeks, and I loved this town. I loved everything about it, and I still do. The grandkids, our son-in-law and daughter moved back to Gustine, and my son-in-law got a job with CCID as their water engineer, and so I'm proud to say that we're going to have another generation growing up in Gustine, and that kind of spurred the idea that I run for city council again. Looking towards the future of Gustine, keeping Gustine a safe place to live, a place where people can enjoy being around town in the evenings and not having to worry about a high crime rate. And we might not have everything we need when we need it, but we have a quality of life that a lot of people can't say they have. So I'd like just to offer my expertise. I served 24 years on the city council and 8 years as mayor, and stepped aside in 2010 and was appointed to the Merced County Planning Commission and served 7 years there in Merced County, and then decided this year I'd jump back in the ring and see if I can help out in some of these issues that are facing Gustine. Thank you.
Derek Alexander. Moved to Gustine about 6 years ago. I've lived all over the United States. As you guys can tell, I didn't get the dress code memo today, so I came directly from work. Sorry about that. Moved to Gustine about 6 years ago. I'm a food safety quality manager for a food manufacturing company. I have been in the food industry for about 37 years. Love what I do. Have to keep everybody in health in mind when we're producing food. I am the chairperson of the Airport Commission. I'm also the president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Gustine. I'm a member of the Merced County Association of Government Oversight Committee for Measure V, measure that passed a few years ago, last election I think it was. I fell in love with Gustine. I came here, I met people. I've never felt more at home than I have here. I grew up in Long Beach, Mississippi, which is right on the Gulf Coast. This reminds me of home without the water. But I have an hour and a half to go and I can get to the water anywhere. So I just like what Gustine has to offer. The reason I decided to run for city council is because there's some things I would like to see Gustine have. I think a youth center would be great. I think getting our downtown fixed up. I'd like for people to be able to come to our city council members meetings and understand what the issues are. We have a lot of people show up and they have a lot of questions, but they don't come to enough of the meetings to understand exactly what's going on and what it takes to get to where we're going now. And that's one of the things I'd like to do is get the communication out there and help people understand. Other than that, I don't know what else to say right now, so I'm going to pass it on to Lynn.
Good evening, my name is Lynn Schultz and I am running for the council again. Let me tell you a little bit about myself for the ones that don't know me. I've been married for 58 years to the love of my life, Pat Schultz, who's out in the audience tonight. We have 2 children, Tracy, who was married to Mickey Hickenbotham. I have 2 grandsons, Brandon, who just graduated from Chapman University, and another grandson, Mason, who will graduate from LMU this next fall, or this next spring, and a granddaughter with my son and his wife, Sue, who have 1 child, our great-grandson. I've been in business, an owner of a number of small businesses, and that since 1975 to 2000. I owned and operated Complete Automotive Center, I owned and operated L&M Automotive, and I owned and operated Toyota Santa Cruz. And after I retired, I became board and I was given the opportunity to take over a small operation at San Jose International Airport called Integrated Airline Services, which was a freight operation which handled 9 employees and 1 DC-9 aircraft on a daily basis. When I left to be down in Gustine all the time, in 2006 I had 100 and some employees, operated 90% of all freight operations at San Jose Airport, and plus 3 airlines, Frontier Airlines, I brought JetBlue Airlines in, and Horizon. Before leaving, we had been looking at visiting Newman, Patterson, Tracy, and Los Banos as a possible place to relocate. I chose Gustine since I've been coming here since 1964 for 3 months, 4 months out of the year, hunting ducks out off the Santa Fe Grade. However, after I bought the house and I had a chance to see what was going on in Gustine, I was concerned and I wanted to get involved. Some of you are aware that I have been involved in Gustine for some 15 years since I've been here at different things. I've served on the Airport Commission in 2006. I was a Public Works Director and Airport Manager from 2006 to 2008. And in 2008, I served on the City Council for 2012. I have been a member of the Lions Club since 2006, where I've been the President, the Secretary, Chairman of the Food and Christmas Food and Toy Drive for the past 6 years, and Chairman of the annual Easter egg hunt. And in 2012, I and Pat were voted by the Chamber of Commerce as Citizens of the Year. While working as the Public Works Director, we completed a number of things that we did together, which was number 1 at the airport, we built a pilot's lounge, we put new basket lights in, we got grant funding for the water problem that was out there, and then we built the new bathrooms at Henry Miller Park. I built the corporation yard with portable buildings so that we knew that in the future that they had to be moved so that they could be moved to a new location. And so they were all modular units, and we finished the sprinkler systems over at the soccer field. We also, while I was on the Public Works, we finished the paving on North Avenue, installed a new sewer system in up there for future development, and started to do City Hall and the police department. That was completed while I was elected on the City Council. I also attempted to slow down the traffic on North Avenue by having a stop sign installed Linden North, but it didn't work too well. There's still speed down there in front of the stop. But those are some of the things that I was involved during my time. And it is my opinion that my past experience and the drive would once again give me a great asset to the City Council. So thank you for the time, and I look forward to the questions you have tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pat Nagy, and I'm running for mayor. Yo soy Patricio Nagy, y me estoy presentando como candidato de alcalde de Gustine. I moved here in 1985. My lovely young bride has been putting up with me for 39 years, 4 months, 2 days, and about 27 minutes. I had 4 children that went through Gustine High School, Gustine Middle School, Gustine Elementary School. I've been serving on the City Council for 9 years, the last 2 as the Mayor Pro Tem. I was appointed in 2009 to fill the seat of a council member that moved out of town, and then was elected in 2010 and re-elected again in 2014. My opponent's goal is to be the youngest mayor. My goal is to be the best mayor. Prior to serving on the council, I was a member of the Gustine Traffic Committee. I was also on the Highway 33-140 Pedestrian Bicycle Mounted Vehicle Traffic Enhancement Committee, and that's a mouthful, which formulated the design for the Highway 33-140 and our downtown. The cost of that was over $10 million. That's why it's still not done. Over the course of my tenure on the council, I have served as ex officio of the Planning Commission, and I've served on the Finance Committee. I was a member of the Gustine Redevelopment Oversight Committee and have been the voting delegate for the League of California Cities and have served on the Executive Committee for the League of California Cities for the last 6 years. Last year, I was elected Vice President of the Central Valley Division of the League of California Cities. And for the last 2 years, I have served as an alternate on the Merced County LAFCO and was recently voted in as a voting commissioner by the Selection Committee. I am also the Vice Chairman of the West Side Measure V Steering Committee, and I was also appointed as Vice Chairman of the Merced County City Selection Committee. I have represented Gustine at county, state, and national level on numerous occasions. I have helped build strong relationships with people of all levels of government, relationships that have helped Gustine in the past and will continue to help Gustine into the future. I was on the Transportation Expenditure Plan Committee that formulated Measure V. We fought hard to get more of a share of the funds for Gustine and for the West Side. Because of the efforts of myself, Councilmember Hasnes, Mayor Vialta of Los Banos, and Councilmember McGlynn of Dos Palos, we were able to more than double the amount of money that Gustine got, and we were able to almost double the amount of the West Side regional money that the West Side got. And these were no easy tasks, because there was more people on the east side than there was on the west side. We worked very hard at this and made our case very convincingly. The city has been actively seeking many grants in the past few years. We have secured grants for 2 roundabouts, recently a $500,000 grant for a wastewater treatment plant expansion, the water well number 7, which was over $1 million grant, the new city hall that we were enjoying, water meter upgrades, bike paths, highway medians, body-worn cameras for our police officers, walking paths at the park, Goldman Center roof and air conditioning upgrades, airport drainage projects, phase 1 and 2, airport fencing upgrades to the fuel point at the airport. We're also able to get Measure V funds committed to pay our match of the big roundabout, the airport drainage district project, and the airport fencing project. Just these matching funds from the West Side Measure V amount to $519,000 that we were able to get to Gustine. We have continued funding for Wiley, for the children of Gustine, and for the city pool. We have expanded the recreation department, and I would like to acknowledge Tiffany Vittorino for her hard work in this regard. Our recreation department now When I started, we had men's softball. Now we have Y-League, Zumba, open gym nights, adult softball, cooking classes, annual color run, 4th of July in the park, fireworks, Halloween street fair, summer street fairs, Christmas in the park, basketball camps, baseball camps, tennis camps, airport fly-in, and many, many more. Our offerings are very well increased. Our biggest challenges are economic development and population growth and our infrastructure, attracting new business and keeping our existing businesses, repairing our existing infrastructure, including old water and sewer lines, our sidewalks and our streets. To me and to other people on the council, nothing is more frustrating than the fact that it takes so long to get anything done in government, especially in California. Almost everything the city does has to be signed off on by a multitude of bureaucratic agencies that seem to take their own sweet time, like the State Water Board, Caltrans, the state airport. That's it. Oh, that was fast.
So I knew my opponent was going to mention the age. It's not actually hoping to be the youngest mayor. It's hoping to be the mayor that gets things done. It's a little about myself is I've lived in Gustine for 19 years. I'm the youth advocate for the Gustine Library. Since 2018, I'm the creator and president of the Traveling Library that's helped out with giving books out to youth all across not only Merced County, but neighboring counties like Fresno and Stanislaus. I've been the head of 2 aid relief efforts, when Hurricane Harvey hit Texas. I was the head of that, as well as one that happened here at home to brothers and sisters in California when the fires hit. I also am the creator of the annual Thanksgiving dinner here in Green Acres. I've been doing that for the past 3 years to help get the community active. Everything that I've done in this past time has been community motivated. I've been doing great so far at getting people in town to help see the parks need fixing. The creator of the Take Back Our Parks initiative, which has gotten members of our community actually out and active in the morning, picking up trash cans, cigarette butts, things that shouldn't be there that can affect the youth and our future generations' children. I'm also, one of my main topics, my platform, I'm wanting to help out with our police department. I want to make sure that we have enough funding for our first responders, looking into more grant funding for them. I'm also looking into Gustine First initiative to help out with our economic issue with getting more businesses out here, as well as Gustine First-based hiring, meaning instead of businesses hiring out, we hold job fairs. That way we can get Gustine First-based hiring of our seniors here. I've actually talked to 5 businesses in our town that like the idea, ready to work with it, because they see that it'd be a great position for our youth to get active, get the job experience. Once the next class goes up, they have the experience to get a better paying job, and it continues to rotate in that way. I'm also working on working to make a safer city by building a responsible community with community stakeholders and institutions to improve relations between law enforcement and the community. One of my biggest things that I heard on the campaign trail was people are wanting to know more about who's the officers that are going around. I know that I'm very happy that our Merced County Sheriff's Office came out and held their meet and greet with the sheriff and deputies, which was a phenomenal event. I'm also wanting to work on creating I'm also invest in public education by fostering educational partnerships with corporations and local businesses and supporting the development of community school programs like the Gustine Youth Art Initiative and other programs that can get the children more involved in their school. I'm the candidate that believes that we need to not only focus on our businesses, work with making our town more vibrant, we need to actually focus on the revitalization and beautification projects going on, as well as getting our youth safe and off the streets. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to questions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond. After all candidates have responded, candidates will get an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal or a response. Again, candidates, please pay attention to the timekeeper. We will try to address all questions from the audience. However, at 8:30, we will finish with responses to the last question and move on to a short closing statement of each candidate. All right, first question for all candidates. What can you, the city, do to support small business development and expansion? So again, that is, what can you, the city, do to support small business development and expansion? Anyone that wants to start off there?
This has been a top priority throughout the campaign, walking down businesses, talking to them, seeing what their problems are, what they're in need of. And I'm proud to say that from 2018, since I started working on this, to now, if you look downtown, you can see that there's businesses already getting their front doors fixed up. That's because I believe that we need to work on getting the city council more involved with local businesses, holding more business meetings at a time that they can actually come, and also working on educating them on possible grant opportunities. And in the past, I gotten our town involved in 2 grant opportunities, each one with the $25,000 range. They were both options for our town to hopefully take part in and raise money for a possible fixture of downtown Main Street. I also believe that we need to hold more town halls with getting the community more active and hearing what their problems are, what their needs are. That way we can be better informed, better educated on what we have to prioritize our efforts on, instead of going around and hoping that a business will forget the question they asked. And last thing I mentioned about this is we also need to worry about bringing in new businesses. If you don't bring in new businesses, the ones that we have now are going to sit there, break down, and when people want to come in and rent them, building owners might not want to fix it up. Business owners that want to come in don't have to pay an outrageous amount to fix it. So we need to make sure that the building owners are keeping up with the building, and the business owners are actually planning on actually investing their time and effort into the city. And that's all I was doing.
Thank you. Well, a few years ago, we passed ordinances to do exactly what he's speaking of, and that is with fines that for the building owners that don't bring their buildings up to code. We also have loans. The city has money to loan for small businesses. They have to have a business plan. They can't just come in on a whim and decide they want to open some kind of a store, but we will work with them. We have already, a couple of years ago, streamlined the permit process for opening a business. We have a beautiful downtown. It can be better, but our people here need to support our businesses. It doesn't do any good to bring a business in if the citizens don't support it to where it can make a profit. In the past few years, I have personally met with several grocery store owners of small chains from Porterville to Selma, Dinuba, Denair, and in the area. And the problem being is that they don't want to come here because there's not enough people. They need a return on their investment, and there's a population figure that they feel they need to have to make that profit. And that's about probably 9,000 minimum. They'd like to have a little more than that. So we need growth. That's the number one thing we need, is smart, intelligent, planned growth so that we have the people to support the businesses that we want. Because anybody can start a business, but if they have no customers, they're not going to last. Thank you.
Well, this is a pretty one to follow because Pat's pretty much said what really needs to be done in the city. For a number of years, the city had tried to help small businesses that came in here, and a lot of them have came and left. And the big problem is that we don't have the clientele to come into these small businesses and support them. Most of the people here that go out to buy something, they're heading for Trace or Los Banos or someplace else where there's a larger population. They've got more of a variety of things that they can purchase there. And that was one of the reasons why I originally got on the council before, was because I looked to see what was happening during the 60s and 70s and early 80s when I came down here. If I forgot my wife's birthday, which always falls the weekend before duck season, I could always buy something here in town and had it. But after moving down here and seeing what had happened, we'd lost so many businesses and so many stores and stuff because the population just didn't increase. We set it at 5,000 plus for so many years. The 15 years I've been here, it hasn't moved. And if we don't move this public and get more people in here, no businesses are going to survive in this town. Our budget constraints right now, based on the amount of tax dollars that come in here, are barely enough to keep the city alive and going. So we need growth. It's got to be controlled on how it's done, but we do need to turn around and get as many people in here as we can. I told the newspaper when I was interviewed that I remember that when I was on the council the first time that the master plan showed that we should have been at 10,000 people quite a few years back. We're nowhere closer to that. You know, nobody stays here. These young kids get up, they get out of school, there's nothing here for them, and they leave. So we've got to entice them to stay here, and the only way you're going to do that is to increase the population. and the tax base.
They pretty much said it all, but one of the things I think we need to do too is we need to go out and talk to our business owners that are here. We need to understand what they are dealing with and what type of obstacles they have and they're trying to overcome. The other thing is our downtown doesn't always look the best. I mean, look at the street corners. I mean, we got dead trees that's dying out there. We need to make our town look a little bit better than it does. People don't want to come into town and drive through downtown and say, well, why would I want to put a business down here if it looks the way it does right now? We have some buildings out there that I think the city could help a little bit. They can go out there and say, let us help you, let us give you this low interest loans that we have. But I don't know if we've communicated that enough to our people or to our business owners. To me, communications is the key to getting people to come here. We definitely need the growth. We need some growth. You got to have, in order to get a fast food restaurant to come in here, you usually have to have 10 to 12,000 people in your town. We can't even get that because we don't have the people. I don't mean fast growth. I don't mean like Patterson did, but we do need some growth. We do need some good businesses here and people that will support them.
Well, we do have a fast food restaurant here. We do have McDonald's, Chevron, and O'Reilly's. We have a couple of chains that came to town. Actually, pretty good quality chains. I don't know if you consider McDonald's as good quality, but it's edible. But I think I'm going in a different direction here. I think that if you're going to bring people to downtown, you got to have people have to be here in town during the day, in the evenings. If you build a community, why would somebody drive all the way to work in the Bay Area or over the hill and spend 2 hours on the road on the way up and on the way back, 12, 14 hours a day, past shopping centers and malls and big box stores all the way back and forth, and then so they could come downtown to Gustine? You might get more business on the weekends, but we have to have a different type of business. And the people that open businesses here have to understand that you're not going to sell somebody something they don't want so that they can be loyal to their community. You have to provide businesses that people are going to support. We have, like my business, for example, and no matter, I don't know if anybody up here owns a business here in town, but any business you're in is tough, and there's going to be the ups and downs. Some of them give up too easy. Some of them go into business not prepared, don't know what they're doing. They're underfinanced, and they can't survive a tough time. But if you're going to provide growth, you need, the Fahey project is the biggest thing that's happened here in 20 years. The biggest opportunity for Gustine dropped right in their lap, and it's still not built yet. The best thing that a government can do for a business is get the other government agencies out of the way. Intervene. Find out what's wrong, what's holding anything up. You get them in here that are going to hire a couple hundred people, then you have people that are working local. They're here all day long, all night long, on the weekends. It's probably not going to stop people from driving to Turlock or Modesto or wherever on the weekend just to go, a place to drive and maybe go to dinner, maybe just go shopping just for the day. But if you have to provide the necessities that the community needs. So I think that, we need housing, some quality housing, because at this point in time, most everything has been built out. The slump is finally starting to come back. People are, businesses are starting to make money again. The economy's picking up so people can spend money on their businesses. And maybe look at investing, but everybody was pretty nervous for a long time to stick their neck out, put up some money and try to start a business. But I think that's going to improve in probably the next couple of years. Thanks.
Okay, our next question. If elected, what steps would you take to improve the financial stability of our city and ensure a balanced budget? Go ahead and start with Lynn.
Read that question once more.
If elected, what steps would you take to improve the financial stability of our city and ensure a balanced budget?
Well, fortunately, we've got some people down at the City Hall that are pretty good at balancing the budget. So even though we don't have a lot of money, we apparently balance our budget every year. We may not have any money left when we do it, but they've been able to do it. But the way they've been able to do it is by cutting some services. I don't know that are put on the city by the state and the federal government require that you have to hire more people, and you've got more paper flow, so consequently those costs are going to continue to rise, so we can't get away from them. The only way that we can raise more money for the city is to get more tax dollars. And the only way you're going to get tax dollars is to make sure that any of these businesses that come into this town, whether they be small or large, that they're actually, this is their home base. Because the minute you get a company or a factory or something that moves in here, and they have other holdings in other areas, they'll move their headquarters to the place where they pay the least amount of taxes. And so therefore, Gustine will get the short end of it. If the business is within the city limits, then we're going to get tax dollars from the land, but we're not getting anything on the products that they're putting together or shipping out of the area. So those are the kind of things that the council needs to look at, and also the planning commission when something comes in here, so that they look at these businesses and say, where is your home base? If your home base is Gustine, it's better for the city. If it's not from there, then you got to look at it another way you're going to get money out of them, because other than that, you're not going to get it.
With what Lynn just said, I totally agree. In my last position I had with the last company I worked, I was in charge of a $3.5 million budget just for my department. I was in charge of that type of budget for 10 years, and never once did I go over that budget. One of the things I think we need to do to help balance this budget, I think our city council these past 2 years have done an amazing job at doing that. And what they've done is they've gone out and they've found these grants that was helping to subsidize all these new projects they were doing. This last 2 years is what actually brought me to want to run for city council, because of what they've done and how they've gone out and they've found this money to bring into the city. They're out there advertising for businesses. They're talking to people out there. If we get businesses and we get houses, we get rooftops into town, that's the only way we're going to be able to keep our budgets balanced. As Lynn said, our city hall has been doing a great job of balancing the budget. We've not been in the red for many years. They just got to continue on that road, and I think you got to understand budgets in order to be able to help balance the budget. You got to know what your spending limits are. And I'm not familiar with all the past history of Gustine. As you guys know, I've only been here 6 years, but I understand that wasn't always the case. People worried about what the budgets were. They were just spending what they could and then starting over from zero the year before, the next year. So I think the city council now, if we could stay on the same road as they're going at the last 2 years, I think would be just great and would help keep that budget balanced.
Well, I think the job of the city council as far as the budget goes is to make sure that the priorities are met for the people that they're representing. You have to have a good city manager, first of all, that knows how to manage money. And we've had some good ones in the past. After the crash, when we lost 25% of our general fund revenue in 1 year, and then probably another 15%, our police department took up the whole general fund. There was no money for anything. You'd almost have to shut the city down. But our city manager at the time, Greg Greason, took that budget and, I mean, molded it together and took us through a really tough time, the toughest time I've ever seen in this city, and probably anybody before me for a long, long time. So I think the key to keeping a balanced budget is your city manager, the city staff. And at this point in time, I think that the future is looking good as far as revenues coming in. Housing prices are coming up. And I've seen a lot of the sales around here that are pretty impressive as far as houses turning over. I think these new homes that will be going in will probably be a little bit higher level housing, which will bring in a lot more tax revenues on a per capita basis, which is what you need. And then just a matter of being patient. Don't go out and start spending money before you have it. So I'm looking through the current budget now. I think the city council's done a good job as far as maintaining the services that they have, and I know they're always shorthanded, but like I say, hopefully in the future with these new revenues coming in, that'll improve shortly.
Well, I know that budget is a hard thing because it really is. But we've had a balanced budget since 2009. And as Mr. Ford said, Greg Greason had a lot to do with that. When the economy tanked, we had to make some hard decisions. And our employees stuck with us, even though we stopped paying their 8% of their PERS, which is the employee's portion. The city was paying that. They put that back on the employees because it is their portion. The employees all took a 5% hit on their pay. And as people left, we didn't replace them. We're hiring people now, but we're not really increasing the size of City Hall. We're getting back to the staffing levels that we had in 2008, 2009. Because we have a little bit of money and things are getting busier and our people are overtaxed and they need to get back to those places. The recession hurt the city a lot. We started a redevelopment agency and the city loaned our redevelopment agency $350,000 to get started. And just as we were recognized by the state as a redevelopment agency, the governor slashed redevelopment agencies and we were left holding the bag. We would have been in a perfect position because our tax increment housing prices were very low. So as the housing prices would have gone up, we would have been very well suited and seated to take that money and put it back into our city. However, the governor put the kibosh on it and did away with redevelopment agencies. And we're still waiting for them to pay us back. There's another thing the governor did, and that's called unfunded mandates. There are over 200 mandates that the state says you must do, things that you have to fill out, paperwork that has to be done. And in the past and in the state constitution, it says if the state mandates that you do something, they have to pay for it, or at least reimburse you. Well, Governor Brown decided that he wasn't going to do that. So that's where a lot of our money goes to, is paying for those unfunded mandates that we used to get reimbursed for from the state. And this is something that I've talked to Assemblymember Gray and to Senator Canella, because I think they can go back and start funding those again now that the state has a surplus. Our PERS situation in Gustine is very good too, which is a public employee retirement system. Most cities are facing a very dire emergency in the next few years, but our people here, our forefathers, decided to fully fund our people's PERS, so we're not going to hit that iceberg like other cities will in a few years.
Thank you. I want to say I agree with Lynn and Derek on their comments on how we have to work on grant opportunities for our town. There are currently all situations we have had main cleaning of the roads and the leaves that's been cut or shortened. We have had some resources that need to go because we have to work on the budget, make sure that it's not going over, not wasting any money on certain things that the city does not need. There's always going to be a need for that. There's always something that, yes, it's nice to have, but sadly we can't pay for at the moment. That's something that is going to be hard to fix because you need to find the funding somewhere. With new housing development, with bringing businesses in, that'd be great to bring in more money for our budget so we can bring back those nice necessities or what we think is necessities to our town. I believe that we need to work with the city manager better, make sure that everything's going correctly, looking at the budget consistently, making sure we're not going over anything, see if there's any needs for any cuts anywhere. That way we're not wasting any money on things that we don't need. Because currently there's a situation where we're looking at the money, it's not that easy to get. If I'm working at the city, my internship, I was able to see firsthand that there's a lot of complications, a lot of situations that come into it where you have to say we don't have it in the budget. And it hurts to say it's something that you shouldn't have, it shouldn't have to, but things happen to come up where we have some of the money at this moment. We should work on more opportunities. We should look and see where we can manage things a little bit better. I believe that hopefully in a couple of years from now, we will be able to bring everything back to how it used to be able to bring back the necessities that we used to have, as well as be able to bring in more workers for the city. And that's all I would say.
Okay, next question. How would you go about the expansion of homes and property for our town and handle it fiscally? So how would you go about the expansion of homes and property for our town and handle it fiscally? We'll start with Rich.
I'm not quite sure that question handling it fiscally, but I think, as I've always believed for the last 30 years, that when you build housing, it should pay for itself, which it never does. And the housing developments that have been built, the property tax on the houses won't cover the services that they demand. So the only way you can do that is when you're building, and I was kind of hoping that would be included in this new subdivision, but it's not, because it's already going to LAFCO. But if you have a service agreement for each housing development that calculates the cost and adds it to the property taxes, so whatever is being brought in, if you need, you know, parks, service, extra police officers, whatever it's going to be, you add that into a service development agreement so that it's added as part of the property taxes, and it's the only way you're going to cover it, because as it goes on, basically all you're going to do is dilute the services. If you need one cop for every 500 people, but 500 people won't pay for one cop, then as you do it, you're just going to have to hire less cops. They're going to have to cover more territory, and it's the same with your public works people. You're going to keep getting shorter and shorter handed. You're going to have more parks coming in. I've seen it happen with the school district too. And I watched it there, and these guys are just overwhelmed by when these schools are being brought in, but they don't get any extra help. And the city of Gustine is going to happen the same way. When they build that new subdivision with the park area there, you're going to have more maintenance, and these guys are going to be short-handed, and people are going to be complaining, hey, the lawn's dead at the park, or it didn't get mowed. It's because they're over there on the other side of town trying to take care of the new stuff that they have. So if you don't include these districts, you're never going to be able to keep up with the costs.
Again, I totally agree with what you just said, Rich, on most of it. Some of the things I think we need to keep our eye on, though, is in the past, it hasn't always been that way. We've allowed people to come in and build homes and didn't follow through in the contracts that was made with them. We made some big mistakes in the past. We did not put some of the stuff into the taxes that we needed to. We did not have to have people paying for the utilities, the lighting that's in their areas, things that were overlooked. So when we do build these new housing projects, when we get this annexation finished, I think that's something we need to have someone look at other than just the city council to make sure we don't overlook some of these items that's been overlooked in the past. It's cost the city a lot. If I remember correctly, and one of the city council members, they talked that we're losing over $100,000 a year because we did not include the right verbiage in our contract when Burley Ranch was built. That's something we've got to start looking at. We've got to make sure we're paying attention to these contracts. Handling it fiscally, like Rich said, that's going to be hard to do, but it's something I think could be done with the right people in there.
I don't think that you're going to catch up. That to me is a fallacy. We are paying high prices for permits to build homes here if you compare it to other areas. The fees and structures, the way that they're done, are done to try and balance out so that we can stay afloat. The problem rolls back to the same thing that I said earlier, is that we don't have enough homes being built here for people. I heard just recently that the rental market for people that want to rent homes here are so high on the cost that they can't afford to rent them. So if they can't afford to rent a home and they can't afford to buy a home, they're not going to come here anyway. I don't care what kind of businesses we put in. So there has to be a balance made as to what the cost is in order to build a home, that you're not going to take the developer and put him in a position that he's losing money right off of the bat, and then that the fees are such that the people that are going to buy this stuff or move into them can't afford to pay for them. So the only solution you see in that is numbers, and that's just a pure fact of it. If you increase the number of homes that you build, then eventually the costs are going to come down, where you're going to build a bunch of houses and nobody's going to buy them. But if we were at the market where we should be based on our master plan, I think the city would be in a tremendous good shape. I really do. But we haven't done it. We've laid stagnant for so many years. Every project that's looked like it wanted to come here has been tabled or turned down. And now I hear we're also in kind of a bind as far as what we've done as far as inexpensive homes for elderly people and the less fortunate. And so I don't know what the answer is now. I've been away from the council for over 6 or 7 years, and I haven't had a chance to really look at it, although I have seen some of the stuff the city manager's got on his table. But there's got to be a balance in there, and the balance isn't going to be control the growth so tight that it can't expand and create more dollars for the city. Other than that, you're going to wind up like we were before. Cut your police force, cut your public works department, and cut services.
Well, it is a fact that housing does not pay for itself after the initial hit that you get, after you get the fees and so forth. It costs the city more for the services and to take care of those homes. That being said, why are there cities that are very prosperous when they're larger? Because as the population grows, their commercials cores grow, which creates more sales tax, and that's where the money comes from for the city. The property tax also, but the sales tax that gets generated by the people buying products in those cities. If it was so expensive, because it is so expensive to take care of houses when you don't have the sales tax that go with it, if that was true.
Wording is clear in it. That way we're not losing any profit from it. I also believe that we need to work with our local first responders, because right now we have room for 6 officers. We only have 4. We have enough money for 10. We have 4. We need 6 more. We need to make sure that our law enforcement, our first responders grow and increase alongside with this growth. That way, in case of an emergency, we have them here, and we're not going to be ending up in a boat somewhere, because we cannot grow without our first responders going with them. We need to make sure that we have the money to keep up with it, because water and waste, electric, these are things that need to be looked into it, and we just can't gilly-gally with this, because if we grow faster than our fire department, our police department, we're going to be in kind of a bind. Just like how with Newman was. Newman grew too large, faster than the police department, and they weren't able to keep up till recently. There are still some situations because they're still building. So as long as we do it smart, we plan it, we make sure that our fire department and police department are able to work with them, then it's going to be good. We have to make sure that we're not wasting any money in this. We're able to help them out with figuring out where they're going to be developing, if it's going to be a good idea or not, as well as making sure that we have room for helping keep up with the fire department with funding, police department funding, and our first responders as well.
Your next question is a 2-part question. Do you think the annex on the south side of town is the right move for the city? And the second part to that is it being done correctly? So the first part, do you think the annex on the south side of town is the right move for the city? And then your second part of the question, is it being done correctly? Go ahead and start with Mr. Nagy.
Thank you. Yes, I am all for the annexation on the southeast side of this town. And yes, it is being done correctly. We've got a couple local men that are driving this that are Gustine residents, lived here all their lives. They've got a lot of money tied up in this. They don't want it to fail. They don't want Gustine to fail. They're doing this to help our city, not to hinder it, not to overburden it, but to help our city grow. We need to grow. Everybody can agree that we need to grow. We can't stay at 6,000 people, because what's happening is the city coffers are going further down and down and down, and eventually the city will go bankrupt. So yes, I believe it is, and I believe we're doing it correctly. We've done all the environmental work, we've done the water studies, everything that's been asked, and it's in LAFCO's hands now to overlook it and to give it their blessings and to where we are annexing that property. Thank you.
For the first part, I do believe it's the right move. We have to grow. There's no going around it. If we don't grow, we're not going to get anything that we need. There's businesses, there's grocery stores, like Pat mentioned, that they look at us, they see our size, they see that they're not going to want to stay here, because they need to have some kind of investment to want to be here. If we don't have enough people, there's not enough money to come in. That's why people would now go to Newman, Patterson, Los Banos for their goods. I do think that it is being done correctly. From what I've been hearing, from what I've seen, it does look as if it's going to be going in the right direction. But again, we understand people need to go to these council meetings and hear what the council is saying about this. If people think that this is going to end up hurting our town, they think that's going to end up bringing crime rates up, they think that's going to end up causing crack to come into the town and some kind of drug epidemic. We have a terrific police force that can be able to maintain this. If houses come in, the houses are going to bring a lot more money into our town. It's going to bring a lot more people that are going to hopefully shop local. And who knows, maybe the people that come in that are new do want to open up a business downtown. This annexation can open up a lot of great doors for our community. And we have to look closely at it instead of just automatically thinking this is bad. Because if you keep looking in that direction, nothing gets done.
The project is excellent. When Ron Katakis first came to the city, I was one of the first people to talk to him about the project, and it's a long-term project to build it out. I think that you'll find that what they do build out there is going to meet any requirements that the city would have. I see no drawbacks in it whatsoever. It's definitely a plus for the city. We do need the homes, we do need the population. I know that it goes to LAFCO on November the 1st, and that'll be the final hurdle that they have to go over. Since it's such a long-term built out, I know when it first came on and they told me the number of lots that were going to be involved in, I was a little concerned on how fast they would try to build it out, but it looks like it's a 10-year project to be completed. In 10 years, if we could sell every one of those lots and have a home in there, this city would be in financially a good shape.
I do agree it's a great project. I do think it's the right thing to do. Is it being done correctly? It is. I've been to a lot of city council meetings. I've had a lot of meetings with the city manager. I've talked to other people. I think they are doing it correctly this time. They want to make sure they get it right this time. They want to make sure they get the right infrastructure in there and the right money coming back out of it that they're supposed to, so don't make the same mistakes and repeat the past. The house is going to be great, and like Glenn said, it's going to be a slower build out. It's not going to be come in and build 300 to 400 homes in several months and be done with it. It's going to be a slow process, which is going to help Gustine grow at the pace we need it to. We just don't want it to come in and bust right open. That's going to hurt us.
Yeah, I think that when Ron Katakis first came to Gustine, and myself and Mayor Pro Tem Oliveira met with him and George Rose, who was going to be part of that whole subdivision area, after our meeting, we had a candid discussion with Mr. Katakis, and it was, this is what we'd like to see in a development in Gustine. He was really receptive and even came up with some of his own ideas, really great to work with. The other developer wasn't too happy with him, so he walked away, Mr. Rose. And then when the project started coming forward, which you had the collapse, so obviously there was no market, so he didn't pursue it any further until it started looking like the market was going to come back again. But he was willing to do anything that the city asked on this development. He's proud of the products he builds. He wants his name on them. He wants people to know who built it. He builds projects in Turlock. He's got some over there. He had some ideas for this one too that I think are really going to be nice. And that's the kind of development you want. That's the kind of developer you want to work with. You know, and they'll tell you, I can't make this work. You tell them what you want and they'll say, okay, I can do that, or I can't make this work. We can't dictate where the development's going to happen because it just depends on who owns the property, what properties are for sale, what developer's interested in doing it. So you got to take what comes and then try to make it work and see how it's going to play out. I'm not sure on this subdivision though, as far as if it's done right. The other subdivisions we've done in town, when I was on the council, we always had a development agreement before we annexed the property. I don't believe there's a development agreement in place yet. And that was kind of the city's leverage when you're doing a development agreement, is you come put all the details in there and then you have an agreement on whether or not the developer wants to build that way or not. And then you annex the property and all your agreements are in place and agreed to before that happens. But some of this is, we've got some land in there that's also forced annexations, people that don't want to be annexed. Part of the holdup on this project too, and I was just in contact, Mr. Katakis just called me yesterday morning when he saw that I was running for city council, and he said, if you get elected, I hope you're still supporting my project. Which I told him I was, because I think this is one of the developers that's willing to work with the city. But they take, you know, when you're trying to put those development agreements together and you run into some problems, these other people, the city wanted them to take the whole block from Mills to Hunt, from Noble Road to Sullivan. Those property owners didn't want to be involved. He was tearing his hair thinking they're going to shut down his project because if more than half the property owners don't want to be annexed, it'll stop his project. And I told him, I said, leave everybody out that doesn't want to be annexed. Just do your project, and you're going to have to take in the ones that you can't create an island. So some of those are going to be forced annexations, and they've worked with those people to come to an agreement so that they're happy too. They may not want to be in the city, but that's what's going to happen. So they try to accommodate as best they can. So I think this project is going to be good. It's going to be interesting to see what the development agreement looks like, though. Hopefully I'll be participating in that.
Along the same lines, same discussion, what are your plans on water for the annex? And will the city be able to comply with Sustainable Groundwater Management Act? So what are your plans on water for the annex? And will the city be able to comply with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act? And we will start with Mr. Alexander.
I really can't speak a lot on this one, I'm sorry. I'm not up to par on this one. I just know that from what I've been talking to the city, when I've been talking to the city manager, when I've been talking to the city council members, they tell me we have the plans in place. Like I said, I have not been involved in that part, so I'm not going to sit up here and give you a bunch of BS because I can't answer it.
Well, the Sustainable Groundwater Act that the government, the state of California passed, if you build a subdivision, they calculate how much water you're going to pull out of the ground when that well is built over there. And in order to be sustainable, you have to replenish that groundwater. So it's got to come from somewhere, either rainfall or some sort of recharge project, or you have to conserve water somewhere else in order to make it sustainable. I don't think at this time any project can meet the Sustainable Groundwater Plan because it's just getting started. But CCID has been working with the city. They're putting the city's plan together, and they're also experimenting with some recharge projects. They have one over in Newman, and they have one on the Los Banos Creek, and they seem to be pretty, they look like they're going to work pretty well, but it's going to be a few years. So in that case, when you annex the ground, then you would take possibly, I don't know what CCID is going to do, but you might buy in enough water to replenish what you're pulling out, and they can put it in through their recharge projects. And so you're basically trading water. CCID has been great to work with. They've helped us out in the past, and they're continuing to help us out with this plan. And I have an inside connection with CCID, so I think it'll work out pretty good.
I met with the city manager a week ago to go over some of the projects that are being done within the city limits, and one of my questions was about the water on that project. He tells me that not only the water, but the sewer capacity that we have, that we can handle this, that there's not a problem with it. Because I was concerned, first of all, about the amount of water, but they're going to punch a well there. And also, as far as the sewer system is concerned, out at the water treatment plant, we have a facility that can handle it. So as it grows, so will grow the water, and so will grow the sewer treatment plant. So I was assured by the city manager that we're not in a problem as far as that is concerned.
Well, we have enough water for about 74 homes. After that, there will be a well put in that will be paid for by the developer, and that will take care of the rest of the homes that will be built in that area. The Sustainable Groundwater Act is a big thing, and we are working with CCID to get ours in place. And like Mr. Ford said, one of the other things we're doing with CCID is we're working with them to irrigate our parks with CCID surface water rather than pumping groundwater. We can buy surface water from CCID cheaper than what the cost is of pumping our groundwater out to water our parks. So we're working on that phase too.
I want to the same boat with Derek. I haven't looked into this much to the water for the annexation, but I do agree that there will be wells being created to support this annexation for the housing, and then we can possibly, after that supply runs low, we can work into possible well project to save some water from the rainwater or the purchase of more. I believe that we also need to work on making sure that our waste and sewer can keep up with the new housing development. That we don't have any situations with any clogs or anyone complaining that the waters are working correctly. I want to make sure to look more into this. That way I am able to answer this question a little bit more further in detail. But for now, that's all I can mention to the public as well.
Another hot topic. What is your position on marijuana cannabis businesses in Gustine? So what is your position on marijuana cannabis businesses in Gustine? And we will start with Mr. Ramos.
This has been a hot topic ever since it was first brought to the council on the possibility of having a grow and dispensary in Gustine. I understand the reasoning for not wanting to have it. There's a fear of possible crime or possible bad people coming into this town if our roads can handle it. I do believe that the grow is going to bring a great amount of proceeds to our town. It could help out with a lot of situations we're in. I will say that because of the location of the grow, where it's located, I am for it. The dispensary, on the other hand, I am on the line with because of the location. I want to look more into the location of where they want to put it at. I want to make sure that's not going to be anywhere down Main Street. It's not going to be anywhere the public can easily get to or youth are passing by. There we are. I understand that there's a lot of contradictions with this, with you don't need it, we can find another way to fix this. I do agree with that. There are many ways to help our town out. I believe that I want our town to go as far as possible with this, but not too far where we can't step back in case something happens. Because I do believe that there could be some kind of issue. As many of you know, Canada just made it legal in their area, and they run a test. One of the biggest things that we need to realize is other states, other countries run research that we can easily get to right now. And Canada showed it where marijuana does affect teenagers and their mental thinking states. It does help, it does slow down, it also helps increase with depression, and it can have an effect on anxiety, either way going in it, but it does have a lot of great medical purposes. As you've gone to all the town halls, all the council meetings, you've heard a lot of testimonies from people that have said how it has affected them and how it saved their lives. Another thing that was brought up into the research is alcohol. If you're not going to allow medical marijuana to be grown, then what can we do with alcohol? There's a lot of things that hurt us. There's a lot of things that interfere with our lives. It's going to happen either way. So I'm hoping to look into it more with the developers, with people that want to bring this in, talk to them, hear more about their plans for this. But for now, I am for the grow. I am on the line with the dispensary.
This is not just a hot point, it's very interesting. I find that everybody that you talk to is in favor of medical cannabis for the medicinal reasons. But they're against a pharmacy. And I find that very interesting. I am still doing my due diligence. I have not decided one way or the other. The grow operation, yes, it's very profitable. Supposedly, it's a legal entity. The marijuana, it's legal, folks. For those of you that think your kids are going to smoke marijuana if we open a dispensary, if the kids are wanting to smoke marijuana, they're already smoking marijuana. It's been around since the 40s. The government's never been able to control it. So now they figured out a way to tax it. So now they legalize it. Is it right for Gustine? I don't know. I could tell you 100 people in town say yes, and 100 people in town say no. But I'm still doing my due diligence. I would lean towards the grow operation because it would not be seen. And that product is not going to be sold in Gustine. It's going to be shipped out of town. But as far as the dispensary, that's a hard one. Because the people that need it for medical reasons really need it. And the kids aren't going to be allowed to go in there and buy their product. So I'm still up in the air on that one.
I don't believe that a dispensary system in the city of Gustine is anything that we want to have here. I've said, and I said it in print in the newspaper, that as far as the growing facility that they proposed in the old Timken warehouse, I'm not opposed to that because it's like a fun product. You're raising something and shipping it out. I do worry about somebody trying to get in there, but I believe with the regulations and that are involved, that they can control it. But we've got a number of things here in Gustine. It seems like we put the cart in front of the horse here. We have some zoning ordinances that would have to be changed. The city voted a number of years ago when we were on the council not to allow marijuana to be sold in the city of Gustine, and that regulation would have to be changed. There's a situation as far as how close it would be to any school. Those things have to be handled before you could go into any kind of an agreement. And I don't know that there's an agreement, because at one of the council meetings I hear that it's a two-part thing. One of them is the growing facility, the other is the dispensary system. But then I was outside the city council after the meeting was over with, and I hear that, well, the people that want to invest the money to build this thing, they want to have both. They want to have the growing thing and distribution out of the same warehouse, which I don't think is good for the city of Gustine. I don't know what it will do about the traffic if we had it here, as far as people are concerned, or whether they're going to come or not. I know that the city manager, the mayor had said that the place in Crow's Landing, you wouldn't even know it's there. I didn't know it was there, and I go to Patterson all the time until I saw an officer standing outside that was guarding the place, and then I realized where it was at because they had been discussing it. The agreement that has to be done has to be one that protects the city. If we allow somebody to come in and put a plant that's going to grow this in here, and the agreement is such that it protects us, if they're going to invest that kind of money, we have to have money up front. I know that when we allowed the doctor's office to come in and we did a loan for them to get started to buy some more equipment and that, at that time we had the owner of the business, the doctor's business, personally sign the note so that we were protected. And I think you have to go into any kind of a deal like that so that if they fail, we aren't left holding the bag on some of this stuff. And there's a lot of things that haven't been ironed out yet. I think it's in the infant stages. I don't know if by the time we could get through everything that needs to be done in order to things come to happen, if it'll even be feasible for us to do it. So there's just a lot of things that haven't been really discussed. We've had these discussions where we've had the citizens come in and talk and say what they want to say, but when you get down to the actual agreements in that's going to have to be done between the city manager and the council in order to get something to bring back to you, the citizens, that you can understand what's going on. Because right now it's somebody getting up to expressing their feelings, what they use it for and stuff like that. And I don't think that has one bearing on whether we actually put a growing facility in this town.
The grow facility, my opinion is I'm okay with it. Why? It's going to bring money into town. It's going to be secure. I think the agreements are being looked at properly. From what I've been talking with everyone and meeting with the city manager on this, I'm not against it. The dispensary, I'm not so much for the dispensary. Although people think it's going to bring in other elements from out. There are going to be people on the streets all night. They're going to be in and out buying marijuana. Well, let me tell you, come sit in my backyard on any Friday or Saturday night, and you'll get high just sitting back there from my neighbors. Okay? Serious. And they're not buying it here in Gustine. They're buying it. I got a website that I go to, a friendly website, and there's people that deliver it here in Gustine. And then they say, well, on the website, hey, I deliver anywhere, but I'll bring whatever you want. So I'm not so much for the dispensary, but the grow itself, there's a lot of good that comes out of that. With that grow business, there's also a testing facility that can come to this town. The testing facility, the oils that are extracted out of this marijuana, or whatever you want to call it, they have to test the oils to make sure they're pure, that it's got all the wrong ingredients out of it. So that's another part of this business that we haven't even really talked about. But there's a lot to do with this, and there's a lot of money to bring in to the city of Gustine. And I'm not just looking at it for the money. I've looked at the building. The building's going to be secure. It's going to have security. It's going to have alarm systems. It's going to have someone out there. If you guys gone by the one and get the little dispensary in Crow's Landing and saw the guard standing out there, 75 years old. I mean, a 3-year-old could outrun him, you know? So I really don't think there's that much to worry about with that. But like I said, I'm okay for the grow. I'm not so sure about the dispensary, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not afraid of the dispensary at all. And I think marijuana, cannabis, whatever it's called these days, is going to be mainstream in a few years. I don't know how long it's going to be, but they've been talking about this for 20 years already. They've been using it for medical purposes for at least 20 years, probably longer than that, for inflammation, cancer treatments, glaucoma, seizures, anxiety. I mean, I can't believe that all this is made up. There's people using it that it's working. And some of it with pain medication, it's either that or oxycodone or some high-powered triple drug that the kids are getting their hands on that. You want to get something that's dangerous. I'd rather have them out smoking a joint in the backyard than stealing grandpa's oxycodone and selling it on the street. But I think the state of California let us down when this thing was legalized, and they gave everybody, okay, you got 2 months to write an ordinance, or otherwise you got to go by our ordinance. So now you've got so many different ordinances. When I was on the Merced County Planning Commission, we just passed the one there, and it can only be 6 plants, and they have to be indoors. You can't be in possession of over a certain amount, but a person can drive from Delhi to Merced, buy it at the dispensary, and then go back to Delhi. So I asked him, I said, so what happens when they're driving back and you stop them, the sheriff stops them, and is that legal, illegal? They're out in the county now. Or just the smell of it, does that give you probable cause now to search their car? So when I went to the interview with the newspaper on this city council race, and I was telling them, I just drove from Gustine to Newman and crossed 4 jurisdictions, 2 county and 2 cities, and nobody knows what their rules are. So they need to have a standard set of rules, and I'm not sure if I even would disapprove of a dispensary, because I think it is helpful to a lot of people, and people are trying to figure out, you know, what they have to go through. I know even the older generation now that they're figuring out that this can help them, and it's not as harsh as some of the drugs they're getting. But then they have to try to go somewhere to get it. You can't just, you know, maybe can't drive down to Crow's Landing. So I think we've got a little ways to go, but I'd like to see a good solid set of rules so that we can all live by the same rules.
Okay, we have time for one more question. With your current experience, what do you feel you have to offer as a mayor or council person in regards to improvements to our police department? So with your current experience, what do you feel you have to offer as a mayor or council person in regards to improvements to our police department? And we'll start with Mr. Schultz.
Well, I was a firm advocate for the police department ever since I came here, because they are the backbone and the safety of us around town. When I moved here 15 years ago, it was kind of a nice place. I never locked the doors. I felt really comfortable in that. And then when they started getting some people that were breaking into houses, and that made me change my mind a little bit. But all the time that I was on the council and that, I always voted for more police officers, more cars for them, get rid of the junk they had and put them in new vehicles and that. In fact, when we bought the 4 cars the last time, I said, why didn't we get 5 or 6? Because we were going after grant funding to help pay for them. The police department, the fire department, they're the people that look out for us. They're the ones that are watching when we're not watching, and they're the ones that are there to help us when we need help. So I'm a firm believer in anything that we can do to help those 2 departments out and create more funding for them so that they can operate the way that they should operate. I don't like the idea of having one officer in a car at night. I don't like the idea that we only have 1 or 2 cars on patrol at night. Granted, the police department is a big budget, but it's one that we have to have. I mean, you just can't get away from it. So I'm definitely in favor of anything that we can do to promote that department along with the fire department with it.
Totally agree with what Lynn just said. Hate to keep saying that, but I do. Our police department, when I first moved to Gustine, I thought to myself, wow, look at all the police we have here. Because I moved from Patterson. And I'm thinking, we only have a sheriff that covers our area in Patterson. Now we've got 4 or 5 police officers here. But as I've grown to know Gustine and know what actually happens around here and got involved with knowing some of our police officers, some of our firemen, that's 2 departments we can't do without. I don't have a lot of experience with the police department. I don't have a lot of experience with fire departments. But I do know that they're vital, and they put their lives on the line every day for us, and it's something we need to stop and think about whenever we are going up for votes for something for the police department, or we being asked to do something for our fire department. It's something we need to keep in the back of our mind. These people, they're heroes. I mean, they're the ones going to go into a burning building. They're the ones going to go and pull you out of a car that you've been in a car accident. They're the ones that's going to go to your house when you got someone coming in with a gun. Being limited, all I can say is I'm there to support them 100%.
Well, over the years, we've continued to increase our police force. I think it started out, we had 6 and then 8 and now 10. And I know all the positions aren't filled. I don't know how you do it with 4 officers, but when I was running for county supervisor, there was, you start working with the sheriff's department and you want to know what understaffed is. You got a city of Winton, or the town of Winton, with 10,000 people with 1 sheriff that patrols that, 1 full-time. And he's probably covering a whole lot more than just Winton. And Delhi is the same way. Those communities, Hillmar, that was the biggest question they're asking. How can we get full-time patrol? And when I go tell them, we have 2 officers on duty 24 hours a day. At this time, we're understaffed, so we probably don't have that. But they're like, well, how do you do it? Well, if you want to pay for it, you got to vote it in, and you're going to have to vote in, like we voted in the half-cent sales tax to help pay for them. But I don't necessarily now, after looking at that and meeting several of the sheriffs, I don't think it's the amount of officers you have, it's the quality of the officers that you have and the talent that they have. Because meeting those sheriffs, I'll tell you what, those guys are pretty sharp people. And when they're out there, and the next closest backup is 20 miles from them, they got to be resourceful. And I was even thinking at the time, if you eliminated 2 of those police officers' positions and took those salaries and put them on top of those other positions and hired some top quality cops, I think you could probably do it with less people because their skill levels are going to be high enough where they've handled a lot of these situations and they know their instincts are already there. We're usually the training ground, we get the young guys, and we've run across some that are really good officers. And some of them will stay for reasons other than money, but a lot of them, once they get the training in, they're going to go somewhere else, and we have to keep continuing the training ground. But the key personnel, too, is our chief of police, because I've seen a lot of them over the years, police officers that have been hired, and you have a run-in with them, or you just have an interaction with them, and you wonder, how in the heck did these guys ever become a cop, or how did they get hired? So you got to lean on your chief of police and watch who they're hiring for your police officers and your city manager and who they're hiring for your chief of police.
Back to badge. I'm behind our police department 100%. The problem with our police department is that we've become a training ground for other police departments. We've had some very fine young officers come through here, but other departments pay much more money. The city of Fresno gives it $20,000 signing bonus. We lost 2 people to Fresno, I believe. The city of Porterville has a $10,000 signing bonus. Over in the Bay Area, it's even greater than those. So they come here, they get their training, and they move on. We've already taken steps this year where we've given our police department a 10% pay increase to try to keep them here in town. We've also established a bonus program so that when they're here tenured, they get a bonus. That way they're not leaving because they're going to get a bonus in 2 years or 5 years and that kind of thing. Our general fund is just over $2 million. 1.4 million of that is police. So everything else the city does is $600,000. The police department is our biggest expense and should be. It is everywhere. It's not just here. I can't say enough about our firemen. They're volunteers. They run into burning buildings. They save people for a pat on the back, for a thank you. They're heroes. So are our police. Oh, by the way, I have a daughter who's a cop.
I agree with everyone up here. We have to thank our first responders, the paramedics that come and help us, and the police officers. There's been a lot of disagreements with how they are seen lately, and the other people that save us and protect us and make sure that we're able to keep safe at night. And if our house gets burnt down, they're the ones that help stop it. I believe that we need to work for our police department as working to get funding and grants for better equipment or vehicles for our first responders. The experience I have with departments is why I so strongly believe that they deserve this help. One idea that I have for our police department, I mentioned before, because I do agree, our police department is known as a training ground. They come here, get the training they need, and get a better paying job. There's one officer that became, I believe, he got a better position out in Texas. One of the ideas for this, to help keep officers from leaving here, is to offer some type of money incentive along with a 5-year contract to keep them here. If they decide to leave and want to cut off their 5-year contract, then they pay that incentive back. This is one way to keep them here. I do believe that the low end, the increase to pay is a great idea. That was another idea to keep them here for at least 2 or 5 more years. But we make sure that we get enough funding, enough to keep working hard on grants, so that way those that protect us and keep our lives safe are being paid for correctly and also are able to get the best equipment we can get them. Because if not for them, then who's going to save us when we call?
Okay, at this time, we'll take closing statements from each of the candidates. We will start with those that are running for a seat on the city council, and then we will end with our 2 mayoral candidates. So we will start with Mr. Schultz again.
I would like to say that I don't want to knock our city staff, the people that run the city at this point, the city council, the city manager and that. Most of you are probably not aware of all of the things that are going on behind the scenes with them. I sat down last week with the city manager and he gave me a list of some 22 items that they have got on the table that they're trying to get through for the city. From solar paneling to cut our electric bills to grant funding that they have gotten and grant funding that they're applying for. Stuff that they're trying to do as far as the water tower that's got the serious problem with the interleaking on it. And the things as far as the Schmidt Park is concerned with the bike path and the other things up there. There are a lot of things that are being done and that are good things for the city that they're going to be able to do that we don't know about yet, or I shouldn't say we, but most of you are unaware of. I will say that as far as when we were discussing about the police department and that, I penciled the police department out when the sheriff's department tried to come in here and wanted to take over the police department a few years back. And once we penciled it out, it sure looked like it was going to cost us more money to have the sheriff's department take care of the city with less people, and the closest station was going to be down in Santanella. So as far as the police department, we have a good police department. As Pat said, we need to take better care of them, find ways to get more funding for them. But I think the city's heading in the right direction. I think with the development that's being done, I was just recently told that the 5 lots down by the high school are going to be built out now with homes on them. So those are the things that are going to bring more tax dollars into the city. And I do think that over the long run, over the next few years, that you're going to see that the city is going to prosper a lot better than what it's done in the past. I'm very upbeat about it. I think it will work. I believe that with my past experience in business and as also being involved with the city as long as I have been, and know as many of you people within the city and what you're looking for, that would be an asset to go back onto the city council. So I ask for your vote on November the 6th. Thank you.
He's hard to follow. As you guys can tell, I'm not a speaker. I never was formally trained in how to speak to groups of people. I'm not a politician, I'm just a working person. Worked all my life since I was 16 when I went out and lived on my own. But what I do know is whenever I do a job, I do it to the best of my ability. And what I want to do for the city is to be there for them. I think decision making is one of the most important things, and to get these decisions made. I mean, it seems like sometimes we just sit back and we have the same discussions over and over and over in the city council meetings, and it's just constantly, well, I want more research, I want more research. And I think sometimes it's just pushing it away because we don't want to give an answer. I'm one of those people that like to look back, and I like to get the research, I like to do the research, and I like to move forward, make that decision. It may not always be the right decision, but you know what? You fix it and you move on after that. Like I said, I'm not a public speaker. I love Gustine. I fell in love with this town. I never wanted to leave Gustine. I think this is going to be the place that I'm going to end up probably dying in. But I just want to live here and to help our community. I think the people here are super. I mean, there's a few people that, you know, I could pass on by once in a while, you know, but that's with any town you go to. But, and I just want to thank you guys, and if you see here that I may be worthy of your vote, I appreciate that. And I think anybody up here is going to be a good candidate for the city council and for the mayor. I just want to make sure that you guys know I'm going to do the best I can and to help what I can with the city. Thank you.
Well, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. I served 24 years on the city council, so no matter what you're doing in the city, there's always that hesitation, and I see it. I think this cannabis deal is one of those premium examples of what do we do that's going to be the right decision. And I don't know that there is a right decision, but sometimes you just got to jump off the bridge and see how it turns out and then go from there. When I got on the council, we had a $2 million sewer plant that was just completed. It didn't work. The EPA had paid for that system. We had the cheese plant here that was loading the sewer system up with BODs, and we couldn't process them. So we go back to them and say, hey, this thing doesn't work, what do we do? They said, you make it work. So we started fighting with the EPA for several years. Well, they finally agreed, okay, that design didn't work. They approved it, and it wouldn't handle the processing. So they agreed to pay us a $6 million new sewer system. And then we had to come up with another. We were going to have to pay our share of that, which meant you were going to have to pay. Every user in the city of Gustine was going to have to help pay the cost of that thing. Well, you spend $6 million and make a mistake, you just cost everybody in this town a big chunk of change. So you got to go through, you know, each time you go through these, like with subdivision, where we said, hey, some of these development agreements didn't have things in them that they should have had. Well, we know that now, or I know that now, because we were involved in it. So when it happens, you don't make that mistake again. When the next one comes along, you make sure you cover those things. You make sure that everything's included that got skipped the time before, or that left somebody a loophole that they could get out of as you build a subdivision. So I was involved in 5 or 6 subdivisions at Southport, Ranchwood, Rosewalk, Brentwood, Walnut Woods. So I've seen all these as they develop. Some of them turn out real well. Southport, no problem. We worked with that developer. They were the same way, just like Mr. Katakis. They came in, we told them what we wanted. They went through it and said, yeah, we can do that. And we ran into a snag here and there. We worked it out between us. They went ahead and built that thing without a snag. Then you had Ranchwood, which was a problem. And things didn't turn out that well. Part of it the city's fault, part of it the developer's fault. but we need to stop those things from happening. And I have the experience to see them coming, and I think that I can do that. I also believe that this town means a lot to my family. I mean, we've been here for almost 50 years. My wife was born in this town, so she's a native Gustinian, and now we've got the next generation, my grandkids, that are going to grow up in this town, and I want to see this town continue to be a place where people can enjoy life, go out at night and walk downtown or walk around the town in the evening and just not be afraid to live in town and, you know, shut your doors at night and lock everything up. And I want to try to keep it that way.
I want to start off by thanking you all for coming tonight. I know it's been late night tonight. I want to start off by mentioning a little bit about, I understand that this is a big difference with past elections you've had. There's a lot of great choices on the ballot this year for both mayor and city council. We all have a lot of great things to offer to our town, and one of the biggest things that I want to bring is to create responsible economic development. I want to work on creating Gustine a safer city by getting the public more aware of who the police officers are, who the first responders are, and have a better relationship between the two. I also want to make sure to invest in public education by the fostering educational partnerships like I mentioned before. A lot of the things I have planned for our town, it's not just me. There's always going to be a team behind me, because I believe that it's the old saying, where it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a team to get a town going. No town was created in a day. It takes a team of people that are well educated, that are going to work day and night to make sure that things continue straight. I want to also mention that I've been working hard for our town, working on making sure that our businesses are keeping up with what possible grant opportunities they are, looking into any possible funding for our town, like the most recent, with hopefully getting $500,000 for our town if we get chosen for it, and wanting to work to make sure that businesses can survive here, businesses can strive here, making sure that families feel safe here, can start a family here. I want to make sure that the future generations that come into this town look back 10, 20 years and are proud of the decisions that we made. Because Gustine is a home that my father grew up in, and one of the biggest things that I learned from him is he never took a day off from work. He almost passed once, and he went to the hospital, and the next day he called his boss saying, "Can I go to work?" And I always asked him, why was that? And he told me that the reason for that is because he was raised when if you call for a day off, they send a replacement. That replacement does a better job than you, what if they hire him? That's why I'm coming into this, knowing that I'm going to show up every day, go to every business, go to every meeting, go to every event, talk to the people, make sure things are going good for our town. That way Gustine can run and go into a brighter, safer tomorrow. Thank you all, and remember to vote for Ramus for number 6.
Thank you. Gustine has come a long way in the last few years, but yes, we do have a long way to go. But the fact remains, we are a great community. We are friendly, close-knit, and we come to the aid of our neighbors when they're in need. And we donate. We give. We give to every cause. We give till it hurts. Our fire department, with their Fill the Boot drive, raises more money than cities 10 times our size. So I know we're a giving community. And it's a wonderful place to raise a family. The people of Gustine are raising some of the best children around. They're our future leaders. The youth of Gustine continue to amaze me every year. I work closely with a lot of them through the school district and see them in action, and they're highly motivated, they're ethical, they care for others, and they have great academic achievements and positive attitudes. Some of the visions that I have for Gustine include helping bring the Fahey project to fruition, completing the Southeast annexation and getting the development agreements in place so that construction can commence and protect us at the same time. Work with stakeholders to provide affordable senior housing, attract more industry and businesses to Gustine, work closely with the Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and other groups to improve our city, work with the county and the school district, and start dialogue on possibly creating a multi-use athletic facility, developing our airport into a viable entity, upgrading our wastewater treatment plant and our sewer system, upgrading our water system, expanding our sphere of influence out towards Interstate 5 and working with Merced County to develop the area at Sullivan Road and I-5. Gustine is on the verge of some exciting times. We're poised to grow wisely and thoughtfully, and we must keep our hometown values. We have people that want to invest in Gustine. We need to entice them to invest in Gustine. Gustine deserves qualified leadership. I believe I am the right choice to serve the people of Gustine as your mayor, and I ask you to vote for me on the ballot on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for volunteering to run for this election and for being here this evening. We wish you good luck in your pursuits. I want to thank the Gustine Rotary Club again for sponsoring this evening and having the volunteers here to take your questions, run them up, and make sure that you guys get all your questions answered. Thank you to the audience for being here. You guys have a great evening. Drive safely, and thank you again.